Once you get when a guy who can't use magic at all decides to take on the whole magic tower, meet Verdun, a smart dude who thought he'd climb the ranks with his brains instead of spells. After being the Tower Master's test subject for 7 tough years, he'd had enough of waiting around. Now he's ready to break free using some shady theories in the tower's power. It's time to challenge the whole system. On a quiet night, a huge tower looms while a strange sound echoes through the air. Inside, our hero is chained up and gasping in pain as a voice warns him not to pass out. He screams in agony after a strong stimulant is injected, and this time it lasts a grueling 461 seconds, which is longer than before. From the observer's perspective, he's a rare and valuable subject. A group of mages chat about the results and decide to try a memory-expanding stimulant to boost our hero's abilities. The Tower Master is keeping a close eye on the test subject. Meanwhile, our guy starts to feel like he's slowly fading away. He can't help but bitterly wonder what's led him to such a miserable situation. He keeps questioning why he ended up here despite all his talent and smarts. Out of nowhere, our hero gets hit with another stimulant, and it's pure agony. He begs them to stop the pain, but it's like they don't even hear him. The tower's master gets fed up with the noise and tells everyone to let him know when the experiment wraps up and just walks off. Our hero's heart is shattered as he thinks about why he's dying in a place he once dreamed about. He's surrounded by magic in the tower he used to long for, and it feels like a cruel joke. Someone is beating him up and making fun of him, calling him talentless just because he doesn't have magic, even though he's super smart. This guy keeps taunting him, saying his life and knowledge are getting drained away in this secret lab, and he keeps pushing Verdun to respond with that old arrogance he used to have. Meanwhile, a little insect is watching the whole scene unfold. The mage notices he's not paying attention and angrily asks where he's looking. Realizing that the experimental insects have gotten away, he yells at his assistants before squashing the ant beneath his foot. One mage laughs at him like he's just a useless bug who can't even shake off his chains. Another one says he's actually useful for their fancy S-class experiment. Feeling weighed down by his sadness, the kid can't help but wonder why all this is happening as they make fun of Rovelin and even feels sorry for him for picking such a friend. Nearby, a dying bug is twitching on the ground. Clenching his teeth, the hero wakes up to a tough truth. He mutters a curse under his breath, and one of the mages fires off a sarcastic remark. That's when he really loses it, yelling at them to just shut up. Deep down, he knows it's all happening because he's weak. He thinks back to when his troubles started 15 years ago in an orphanage without parents, then being sent to work at the Magic Tower, where he dreamed of learning magic. At just 7 years old, he took the Mage test and found out he had no talent at all. No matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't get stronger. For a kid who only wanted to be a mage, that was a total gut punch. No matter what happens, he never backs down. He spends his time sneaking around the tower's library, diving into spell books, using his quick wits, even if his magic isn't that great. Over the years, he becomes a researcher at the tower and finally gets recognized as a genius. Everyone praises him, and he starts to see just how brilliant he really is. He feels a rush of happiness when the researcher Lucard compliments him after Verdun shares his research. Our guy makes sure to tell Lucard that he hasn't shown it to anyone else. He's thrilled that Lucard sees his potential and starts dreaming of becoming an official researcher. But then he's hit with shock when he finds out Lucard has stolen his work and passed it off as his own. Desperate, he pleads with the tower's head to believe that the stolen research is really his. He explains how his work vanished right before the submission date and how Lucard is now taking credit for it. The tower head looks surprised and asks if he's really the one behind the theory of multidimensional continuity. Our hero begs the Tower Master to let him tell his side of the story from the very beginning. The tower head can't believe such talent is hiding among the regular researchers. Verdun wishes he hadn't gone to the tower that day, especially after the Tower Master, in a really creepy way, tells him to show up at his lab in 2 days when the moon will be covered. He can't help but think about how different things might have been if he had just escaped the tower back then, because that's when his tough life really started. He spends his days working and his nights as a test subject, forced to whip up a magic circle and put his theories to the test, all while risking his own life. Whenever he tries to expose the truth, he gets threatened with harm to the people he loves, which is pretty terrifying. That's when Verdun realizes he feels completely hopeless. Lying in a dark cell, he's at a loss for what to do next. Then, as he hears distant voices, his mind starts to flood with memories. He sees himself running around happily with his friend Rovelin and starts to question if these memories are really just fragments of his childhood coming back to him now. He remembers when he and Rovelin promised to become amazing mages together, sealing their pact with a pinky swear. Now he can't help but feel a twinge of regret. If only he had been just a bit better, maybe things would have turned out differently. He wonders how his life could have changed, but those happy thoughts start to fade away. Reality gets hard as he finally accepts that it is all over. In his dark cell, that creepy sound echoes around him again. It is the same noise from those experiments that makes him feel like he cannot fight back anymore. Then he hears a strange voice telling him it's not finished yet. Even though he feels like giving up, he realizes the voice is right. A dark presence appears, urging him to hang in there for the sake of revenge and survival. It promises rebirth and power, so he'll never feel humiliated again. Strength starts to flow back to him. Glancing at the glowing moon, he reminds himself that it's not over yet. He's totally set on finishing up a revenge plan he's been working on for 7 years. There's just one last hurdle he needs to jump over. He realizes that just being smart isn't enough to take on some serious power, so he decides to challenge fate and reshape his body using this new idea he's come up with, which he's calling the theory of defying heaven. He's kicking things off and promising to push beyond his limits by tomorrow. Our hero finally finished the theory he'd been chasing, but only after he came to terms with dying. Now he gets up with one thing left to do, just proving it. He's got an artifact that lets him use magic just once. Even if his body gives out, by tomorrow evening he's taking back his freedom. The next day, his plan kicks off. The cell door creaks open and someone orders him to clean the alchemy lab. Another mage gives him a hard time, warning him not to slack off with the festival coming up. When the mage demands a response, Verdun calmly answers in a low voice and quietly heads off to clean the lab by himself. While cleaning the stuff, he's taken by surprise when a voice asks if he's cleaning alone. Rovalyn stands in front of him, smiling. When he asks why she's there, she tells him she just wanted to say goodbye before she leaves. Our boy remembers that she's off to the magical city of Virent, which is a big deal for Tower's most talented mages. He gives her a calm congratulations and wishes her good luck. She hesitates for a moment, but then offers him a chance to come along. She talks about all the new opportunities waiting for them there, but he just stays quiet and unsure. Rovalyn looks a bit flustered and says she just wants someone to chat with, and he must not get him wrong. But our boy softly apologizes and says he'll stay here in the tower. She seems a bit sad, but says she'll send him letters before she leaves. As she walks away, Verdun feels a mix of sadness. She just doesn't get what he's dealing with or the pain he's hiding. Then someone calls him up and then lead him back to be a lab rat while chaining him. Still, our hero feels some relief that she won't be involved in his plans, and he's thankful for that. The magical festival begins at the tower, one of the world's most celebrated holidays. It marks the rebirth of magic and the rebuilding of the first magic tower, making it the tower's busiest day. Most high-ranking mages leave, leaving only the lower ranks behind. Verdun slips through the tower using the festival as cover. At the treasure room, he tells the guard he's here to clean on the tower master's orders. The guard questions his timing and scolds him for not getting prior approval. He eventually lets him in but warns him not to stir up any trouble. Our boy quietly enters the room and places his hand on a magical artifact, activating the sound-blocking device. With complete silence ensured, he begins executing his plan in secret. He walks steadily, and as he approaches the critical phase of his mission, powerful magic materializes before him. Verdun begins by focusing on the second circuit, a costly staff created by the Tower Master that lets a mage cast 3 spells at once and unlocks hidden talents temporarily. He realizes that executing his plan requires obtaining this staff, and to do so, he has to disable the protective magic circle guarding it. The 7th-level protective circle, crafted by the Tower Master himself, complicates things, but our hero has spent 7 years mastering how to break it. With sheer focus, he unleashes powerful electric waves and shatters the circle. Meanwhile, the mages guarding the tower's power source grumble about missing the festival. One complains he'd be elsewhere if selection were based on skill. Suddenly, Verdun enters and the mages tell him to fetch more drinks. They joke about how hard it is to become Tower Master. One promises free drinks if the other makes it, and the other says he'll hold him to it. Suddenly, the second circle staff appears in Verdun's hand and he slashes one of their throats by shooting a beam of deadly blue light. The other mage asks in utter disbelief what Verdun is doing. Verdun moves toward him with intense determination, gripping the staff tightly. The mage steps back, confused and afraid, shouting in shock and asking if Verdun has lost his mind. Verdun calmly admits he didn't expect such a reaction. Furious, the mage snaps, calling Verdun a weakling who dares to challenge a real mage. He unleashes a huge rank 3 spell called Tidal Wave, daring Verdun to survive it. But Verdun just keeps his cool and mutters to himself, a rank 3 spell. Then he quickly fires back with his counterspell, Earth Spear. He completely brushes aside the mage's attack, leaving the mage stunned and in disbelief. The mage crashes to the ground, screaming in agony. The injured mage can't believe that someone like Verdun, a level 1, can use such powerful magic. Verdun replies with a hint of sarcasm, pretending to be shocked by the doubt. Then he calmly says that underestimating people like him and the tower only brings trouble. Then Verdun steps closer to get a good look at the tower's magic power source for the first time. He stops in front of this huge magical heart linked to a complicated magic circle. Feeling ready to finally put his 7 years of planning into action, Verdun realizes that if he messes this up, he has no idea what will happen next. Glowing magical circles materialize on his back, gearing up to unleash a spell that goes against the laws of the sky. He figures if he doesn't give it a shot now, he'll never find out the result of all his hard work. He slams his magical staff into the ground, releasing an incredible amount of energy. A massive glowing magical circle surrounds him as he stands confidently in the middle. With all his might, he casts his spell, Body Reform. With a loud shout of defying heavens, energy spirals wildly around him. The explosion of energy creates a bright light that can be seen from the top of the magic tower. Some travelers in a carriage nearby notice the huge blast that lights up the night sky. Meanwhile, the Tower Master realizes that the massive energy is coming straight from his power source and erupts in anger, shouting that someone has broken into his magical tower. At the blast site, buildings start to crumble, and the destruction is everywhere. Verdun struggles to pull himself out from under the debris, coughing and in pain. Even though he's hurt and feeling weak, he clutches his magical staff tightly and glances at his hand. To his shock, the staff is gone, and his powers feel like they've crumbled too, but the fact that he's still alive means his experiment actually worked. Suddenly, he senses something odd and feels a strong energy rushing towards him. Magical circles zip toward him, signaling that someone's about to strike. Out of nowhere, the Tower Master shows up furious and packed with magical energy. Verdun starts to question whether the Tower Master has caught onto what happened to his guys. In a fit of rage, the Tower Master casts a big spell that blows up the area. When the smoke settles, he's shocked to find a teleportation circle signaling Verdun has managed to escape. Fuming, the Tower Master can't believe someone would actually mess with his tower. He vows to track down and eliminate whoever did this, no matter if it's the Emperor or a kid. He yells into the sky, promising that they won't get away with it. Meanwhile, in a totally different location, everything is chill and the sky is clear. Verdun suddenly feels super tired and just wants to stay put. But then he hears water rushing nearby and jumps up in a panic, realizing he needs to get moving and is confused about where he actually is. When he looks in the water, he's shocked to see he looks totally different. He's confused about why this has happened to him. His brown hair is now light gray and his black eyes have changed to a clear blue. Verdun starts to wonder if he's actually turned into someone else. Even though he thinks the experiment worked, memories flood back like how he managed to escape from the Tower Master using the teleportation circle. He tells himself that he used teleportation magic to get away and ended up in this weird new place. Looking around, he realizes he's in an area he's never seen before. Verdun notices the strange trees and understands he's way far from the tower region. He can't help but smile, feeling exhilarated to have teleported halfway across the continent. He lets out a shout of freedom, imagining how furious the Tower Master must be, especially since there's no way to recognize him after the chaos he caused. But Verdun knows that just taking down the tower won't really stop his master's influence, as the guy is capable of all sorts of things. Still, he figures that's enough for now. He decides to use this time to get stronger while the tower is being rebuilt so he can take his revenge. Verdun is determined to wipe out everything the Tower Master has built so he can prove he's a real mage and finally get his vengeance. He reminds himself that his only goal is revenge and to show what he can do as a mage. With a confident grin, Verdun knows he's saying goodbye to the magic tower for a long time. Not far off, a goblin is chopping wood with an axe when Verdun decides to use his wind cutter spell to take him out. The goblin drops to the ground and Verdun notices that casting spells still feels the same as it always did. He starts to wonder if the only problem is his looks, since his magic skills haven't changed at all. It hits him just how tricky his situation is because goblins around means he's nowhere near the nearest village. Spotting some wheel tracks on the road, he starts thinking about what might have gone down there. He sees an abandoned box and figures its owners must have left in a hurry. Using his mana detection spell, he tries to trace the owner of the box, following the mana trail towards a loud ruckus up ahead. A guy is barreling through the forest in a carriage, yelling at his horses out of fear and frustration. He remembers finding the remains of a bandit group that had been wiped out recently. When he tried to smooth things over by mentioning Baron Baith, it backfired and his mercenaries bolted in terror. Then things really take a turn when a scary orc with a weird smile shows up. The man freaks out but feels a bit of relief when the orc goes after the bandits instead. Still worried he might be next, he cracks the reins and pushes the horses to go faster. All of a sudden, the carriage tips over from going too fast and he gets slammed to the ground. He lets out a groan, feeling the pain in his back. As he tries to pick himself up, something feels off. He glances around and sees goblins and orcs creeping closer. Panic kicks in when he realizes he's about to be in serious trouble. The monsters charge right at him. In that moment of sheer fear, he thinks it's all over. But then, out of nowhere, high earthen walls shoot up around him, creating a barrier against the monsters. Verdun, standing on top of the wall, realizes he forgot to leave an air gap. As the creatures turn their angry attention to him, he decides to wrap this up fast before that guy inside runs out of air. He gets ready for his first real fight since transforming, but besides that earlier run-in with the goblin, the biggest orc comes charging at him with a terrifying roar. He feels a rush of excitement, seeing this as the perfect chance to test out his new abilities. Flames were ripping through the trees thanks to the magic that Verdun was throwing around. He fired off a bunch of flame arrows to take down the monsters closing in on him. They howled in pain as the fire hit them hard. Suddenly, one of the big beasts came charging at him, really pissed off. But Verdun stood tall on a hill, ready to take it on. He unleashed a powerful combo, casting both multiple flame arrows and whirlwind at the same time, calling it a dual casting technique to amp up his attack. He hits the monsters with his awesome fire move called Heat Wave Arrow, and it really packs a punch. The blast is huge, wiping out most of the monsters around. The monsters lie scattered, screaming in pain after Verdun's powerful attack. He's stunned by his strength, recalling how he once struggled with a single goblin. Now, not one remains. Verdun suddenly remembers the guy trapped inside and rushes to help. Just then, a monster sneaks up behind him. He spins around shocked to see that one survived. Before it can attack, he strikes first. Blood splatters, and we all know how that ends. As the carriage rolls away, Mage keeps thanking Verdun, saying he'll never forget this day. Verdun tells him to focus on driving so they don't crash again. Mage keeps chatting, asking if he's hurt, while Verdun thinks about how the guy just doesn't stop. He quietly reflects on how close he came to some real danger. He's still surprised that a monster survived his powerful attack. When the creature lunges at him, Verdun quickly uses the Wind Cutter spell to finish it off. With the threat gone, Verdun relaxes and smiles, feeling good. He asks Mabu if bandit attacks are common around here. Mabu says it's the first time he's seen it and explains that the forest is part of Baron Pathi's territory. He's known the Baron since he was a kid and was told the area was safe. After the bandits are taken care of, Verdun sits in the carriage, thinking he has no choice but to hire some cheap mercenaries after what just happened. He remembers that the teleportation actually worked, and now he needs to keep his identity under wraps to avoid drawing attention from the Boemern Tower. When Mabu asks for his name, Verdun realizes he hasn't introduced himself yet. He hesitates for a moment, then says his name is Asher. Deep down, he decides he'll only go back to using Verdun when he's strong enough to face the Tower Master. The carriage rolls up to the gates of Baron Pathi's castle, where the Baron welcomes his buddy Conrad. He jokes that Conrad looks worse than the last time they met, and Conrad laughs awkwardly, saying he's lost weight from running away from an orc. The Baron checks if he's hurt, but Conrad reassures him he's good. When the Baron finds out that Asher helped save Conrad, he invites him to the castle as a thank you. Asher is grateful for the food, clothes, and place to stay. Baron Pathi Henrod, the lord of the land, gives him a warm welcome. While they chow down, the Baron asks Asher how the food is, and Asher says it's amazing. Then the Baron drops a bombshell. He's offering a reward of 1 million gold coins for saving Conrad, plus a new mission that comes with even better pay if Asher's up for it. Seeing this as a good chance to make some cash and level up his combat skills, Asher asks for the details. The Baron explains about villagers found hanging in the southern forest and that their village got wiped out. He wants to sort it out before the Absolute leaves. Asher thinks it's a fair way to repay the Baron's generosity. Curious that a mage might be among the bandits, he asks when the mission kicks off. The Baron smiles confidently and tells him it starts in 4 days. Fast forward 4 days and night, Enoch, the mission leader, greets Asher and says he's serving Baron Pathi. Asher meets the team, which includes a cheerful young guy, and introduces himself, saying it's nice to meet them. Asher had no clue that helping someone would land him on a crazy mission with bandits. He asks Captain Enoch if everyone there is part of the team, and Enoch confirms they're a bunch of adventurers drawn in by rumors of strange orc sightings. Enoch talks about the big reward, saying that's what even gold-ranked adventurers are chasing for this mission. Verdun keeps an eye on the gold-class adventurers, knowing they're on par with knights because of their internal energy and top-notch gear. The team, which includes 3 knights, heads into the forest with caution. Just in case there's a mage lurking around, Verdun tags along. Commander Enoch tells Asher they'll rely on him if a mage shows up, since long-range spells could really slow down the knights. Enoch hopes they don't run into one, but Asher just smirks and says that would be too bad. Then, out of nowhere, the team stops when Asher senses a magic circle ahead. He steps up and uses a dispelling spell to get rid of the magic in the circle. Suddenly, a massive magic circle becomes visible in the air after the illusion is lifted. Everyone is stunned by how big the magical formation is. Asher explains that the first circle was just an illusion, and the new one is kind of an alarm. He tells everyone to take a step back while he finishes dispelling it. With a strong push, he completes the spell and successfully removes the circle. The adventurers and knights are left in awe of his power, wondering how he managed to destroy a magic circle so easily. Our hero starts thinking about what being an adventurer really means, that someone who travels across the land tackling jobs like defeating monsters or exploring uncharted places. Adventurers are pretty well respected, even though they're always facing death. Fame and money usually come their way if they got the right skills. But when an adventurer gets too powerful and loses their sense of honor, they end up becoming a dangerous bandit instead. Some of the bandits are complaining about their tough situation and the lack of food. Frustrated, one of them shouts at the others to find some food immediately. The night crew sneaks up on the bandits, and one of them asks Enoch what the plan is. Enoch wants to attack right away since the bandits aren't paying attention, but Asher suggests they hold off. They haven't figured out how powerful the mage is yet, and he might be stronger than they think. Enoch is worried they'll miss their chance if the bandits move, but Asher insists they should stick to the smart play for now. The bandit leader is venting his frustrations about their recent losses and how they've lost their way. He reflects on how he went from being an adventurer to a bandit because of greed. He suggests they hit up another village, but his crew warns that they have already ticked off the Baron with the bodies piled up. One guy reminds him they're hiding under a magical veil and proposes they make a move toward Martz soon. Just when the leader decides to go after some nearby villages, explosions suddenly go off around them, catching everyone by surprise. A huge blast erupts, filling the place with flames and smoke. The bandits realize the explosion isn't a fluke, but it's pure magic. They scream in panic when they find out. They walk right into an ambush set by knights led by Enoch. The bandits scramble to defend themselves, but they're hit hard. The mage, Vilshan, takes a severe hit in the surprise attack and crumples to the ground, bleeding badly. The bandit leader rushes to Vilshan, shouting his name, but sees his mana barrier shattered and the injury severe. Realizing the enemy's power, Asher calmly says he has the situation under control and will handle the rest alone. The bandit leader shouts angrily that the Baron clearly intends to kill them, especially after hiring a mage. He goes after Enoch with his sword, a fierce look on his face. They trade blows, and the bandit leader yells that he'll send Enoch's head to the Baron as a warning. Enoch just coolly dares him to try if he thinks he can. Meanwhile, Vilshan tries to make a run for it, but is having a hard time because of his nasty wounds. He realizes his pursuers can't fly, which gives him a bit of hope, but then Asher hits him with a quick attack using the spell Multiple Ice Arrows. Vilshan wonders if Asher's just trying to slow him down and decides it's time to hit back hard. Verdun jumps in, countering with multiple flame arrows to take on the ice attack. The fire and ice spells crash into each other with an enormous bang, causing a massive explosion. When the smoke finally settles, the ground is all scorched and messed up from the blast. Vilshan struggles to get back on his feet, clearly worn out, but tells Asher he's picked the wrong guy to mess with. He explains that even though he's hurt, he can still handle Asher and make a getaway, especially since the Knight Enoch isn't around. Asher stays calm and self-assured, saying he's not planning on letting Vilshan slip away. Vilshan smirks, clearly unimpressed, admitting that Asher's got a lot of confidence and some serious skills, but insists he won't make it out alive. He reveals his true face and, with a sinister smile, vows that Asher will die here today. Vilshan unleashes his powerful third-tier spell, Falling Ice, yelling "Died," as he targets Asher. But Asher stays cool and gets ready to counter. A huge ice barrier pops up around Verdun, making Vilshan think he's won. He stops and smirks, feeling pretty confident. But then, out of nowhere, the ice starts cracking, leaving Vilshan stunned by the unexpected turn of events. The ice around Asher breaks apart in a flash. Vilshan can't believe his eyes when he sees Asher standing there totally unharmed thanks to his own third-tier spell, Earth Spear. Asher smashes the ice into pieces, sending shards flying everywhere. Vilshan, freaking out, asks how a second-tier mage like Asher can pull off third-tier magic. Asher laughs it off and mocks Vilshan, clearly not impressed. Suddenly realizing Asher is working with different elements and not just relying on third-tier spells, Vilshan tries to attack once more. But Asher is quicker and lands a solid hit that takes Vilshan down for good. Asher casually says it was totally worth joining the mission, throwing in some sarcasm while thanking Vilshan for showing him how a real mage throws down. Meanwhile, the orc rocking that unique pendant is just boiling over with rage. 2 days before the mission, Asher whipped up a potion called Magic Circuit Delator with stuff from the Magic Tower. It worked like a charm, but it brought back some bad memories of the painful experiments he never wanted to relive. Asher checked to make sure the body was really dead and started thinking about how he could prove it to the Baron. He spotted the magic staff, cast an appraisal spell, and discovered a stone that boosts casting speed and ice magic. Perrick came running over, totally relieved to see Asher safe. Asher apologized for being late, explaining that the bandits were tougher than he thought. He asked Perrick if the other bandits had been dealt with, and Perrick assured him that Commander Enoch was on it and would wrap things up soon. Before heading back, Asher wanted to ask Perrick a quick question about what happens to the stuff the bandits leave behind. Perrick responded with enthusiasm, saying that the Baron had told Asher he could take whatever loot he wanted unless there were a serious issue. Asher remembered the Baron's smile and gratefully decided to keep the staff. When they got back, the team thanked Asher, saying he saved them from heavy losses. The bandits panicked when they found out their mage, Vilshin, was dead. Realizing how messed up the situation was and fearing for their lives, the bandit leader lost it. With nothing left to lose, he charged at the knights, trying to break their formation. Enoch screams at the knights to move aside, filled with rage. He realizes that without the mage Vilshin, it will be hard to break through their circle. He comes up with a final plan: kill one knight and escape on horseback. The leader fights with Enoch, but suddenly feels something wrong. His sword slips from his hand and he falls to the ground in shock. The knights rush in and hold him down as he struggles. Enoch approaches him, mocks the idea of honor in battle, and kills him without hesitation. He briefly regrets it, telling Asher he would have liked a fair duel. Asher tells him he did well. Asher asks why some bandits are still alive. Enoch explains that soldiers recognize a few of them, and they might be survivors from the attacked village, so that they will be questioned at the castle. A knight is sent to take the prisoners away, treating them harshly. One bandit tries to escape, crying that he doesn't want to die like this. A knight moves to chase him, but Asher senses something is wrong and tells him to wait. Just then, a knight smells blood in the air and feels a strange danger nearby. Suddenly, everyone begins to feel dizzy and disoriented. A knight is hit by a powerful blow that sends him crashing to the ground. The head of the escaping bandit suddenly falls in front of the knight, shocking everyone present. Everyone's staring in shock, trying to figure out if that's really an orc or something worse. Asher starts noticing things and comments that it seems like the adventurers didn't take care of that creature after all. A huge orc shows up, swinging an axe, and now everyone's second-guessing whether this is just a regular orc. Asher gets the feeling it's about more than just this one. There are loads of demi-humans hanging around. It hits everyone that this giant orc is the boss of a whole group. This orc is massive, has a scary face, and is way bigger than any orc they've seen before. The giant orc charges in and way tougher than your average one. It pushes its goblin and orc pals to attack. Enoch yells for the others to hold the line and take the goblins out first. The orc lands a heavy hit on Enoch, knocking him down, and gets ready to finish him off. Just in time, Perrick and another knight rush in to block the strike. A wild fight breaks out, with their blows tearing up the battlefield. Enoch manages to steady himself and hits back at the huge orc with some serious force. He lands a solid punch, and the orc stumbles back a bit from the impact. But then, to Enoch's surprise, the orc just starts grinning like it didn't even faze him. Suddenly, the orc grabs a nearby goblin and begins devouring it savagely. Everyone stands frozen in shock and horror, watching the orc eat the goblin. The orc pulls out a bone from its mouth and tosses it aside. After finishing its meal, it stands again, seemingly recovering its strength strangely after devouring the goblin. Enoch sarcastically comments that the orc healed itself by eating another orc. He also states that getting back safely is no longer an option. Commander Enoch starts shouting at everyone to prepare for serious combat. While the massive orc raises his axe with a terrifying grin, ready to strike, he charges forward with incredible speed and overwhelming strength, hurling his massive axe with tremendous force. One of the knights is totally frozen with fear when he sees the orc's axe zooming toward him. Everyone's in shock as the axe slams into the knight's sword, sending him staggering backward and cracking the weapon. The sword is starting to break under all that pressure, leaving the knight feeling dazed and confused. Then, just like that, the blade shatters completely, with pieces flying right in front of the knight's face. The flying shards pierce the knight's body, causing severe injuries. The knight screams in pain from the wounds before collapsing to the ground, seriously hurt. Suddenly, our hero uses the Earth Share spell to push the orc away from Perrick. He tells Perrick to quickly take cover behind him, and Perrick does just that. The mage pulls back from the orc and runs toward them, saying he is safe, but has lost his weapon. He wonders how he will fight now without his sword, while Asher explains that the orc is much stronger after eating the goblin earlier. Feeling frustrated, Perrick admits he poured everything he had into the fight, but only managed to barely hurt the orc. He starts to wonder if it's some kind of legendary creature. Our hero, staying cool, tells him it's not that special. He explains the orc gets stronger and can heal itself by eating others, plus it can mess with weaker beings, even driving them insane. Its raw power is way beyond what most knights can handle. The hero keeps going, pointing out that this orc is definitely not like the usual ones, but to him its strength isn't anything to freak out about. He starts to explain that regular magic has its limits. No matter how much mana you throw at it, it can only do so much. But there's this one spell that can break through those limits, the geographical manipulation spell. As Asher starts casting his crazy strong spell, a huge magic circle pops up and the ground starts cracking, which totally freaks out the warriors. One dude screams, thinking it's the end of the world. Enoch quickly yells that it's just Asher's magic and tells everyone to chill, but you can still see the fear on their faces. The ground in front of them looks like a total mess, and a bunch of the monsters lose it and scream as they slip and fall into the cracks. They're getting tossed around and dropping into the pits, screaming their heads off. The shaking causes chaos among the monsters, who can only fall and wail in fear and pain. The huge orc stands in the middle of a giant crater, full of rage and letting out a chilling roar. At that moment, Asher unleashes a powerful fireball, causing a massive explosion that lights up the whole area. The flames spread quickly, turning the battlefield into a nightmarish scene. Perrick is pumped about the fire and says there's just something satisfying about watching the monsters burn, but one of the knights tells him to keep it together and act more dignified. Asher thinks about how the third-tier spell Geographical Manipulation can reach far but uses up way too much mana, which is why most mages don't go for it. He feels frustrated by his mana limits, stuck at the third tier, and wishes he could go higher. Suddenly, a bone-chilling sound emerges from the center of the flames, making everyone tense up. The huge orc stumbles out of the fire, all burned up but still standing. Perrick, clearly freaked out, asks what they should do. Asher stays cool and says if the fire doesn't take it down, he'll try something else. He unleashes a big ice spell that completely freezes the orc. Perrick calls out Asher's name, totally impressed by his magic. Asher then fires off a bunch of ice arrows and a winter storm at the same time, trying to freeze the orc for good. His frost arrows hit hard, freezing the orc and some nearby monsters in the process, but even though it's nearly solid ice, the orc lets out a furious roar and charges straight at Verdun. Asher, staying cool and collected, decides it's time to put an end to the orc's movement once and for all. He unleashes a frozen orb, hitting the orc right on target. The ice sinks in deep, locking the creature in place. With a sense of victory, Asher stands tall and announces that the battle is over and the mission is a success. In the vibrant city of Verent, two guys are chatting. One brings up the latest buzz, and the other nods, saying he's also heard that the magic tower is down for the first time. Plus, there was an explosion at its power source. He's not so sure if it's for real, though. A group of mages is huddled together, talking about the situation with the magic tower. They're saying that most of the other mages have vanished, which has completely halted the tower's operations. It's obvious from their chat that the mission they were sent on has really taken a toll on them. One guy mentions he hasn't felt any connection to civilization in ages, while another points out that the damage to the tower is way too severe for just a simple energy core explosion to explain it all. At the same time, not far away, two guys are chatting about what just went down. One of them points out that a lot of people think it's some sort of divine punishment, while others reckon it's a disaster caused by humans. He's pretty pumped that they've managed to support their research theory. Then he wonders if they've heard anything from the magic tower while they've been out in the field. Out of nowhere, a mage in a long cloak stops in his tracks when the guy mentions that someone might have intentionally shut down the Boehmer magic tower. A dude with white hair chimes in with a calm and confident tone, saying that the tower can't just shut down by itself. He goes on to explain that he's heard the tower has been running some secret experiments, and that could be why it got attacked. Before the guy can finish explaining, one of the mages jumps in, grabbing him hard and knocking the cup out of his hand. The guy yelps in pain. The mage holds him tight, demanding that he say what he just said again. This really freaks out the white-haired man, and he asks, terrified, why the mage is acting so aggressively and strangely toward him. Just then, someone with red hair shows up, standing a bit away and quietly asking what happened to the Boehmer magic tower. He looks totally shocked and confused, so he asks again, this time louder and more intense, wanting to know exactly what's going on with the Boehmer magic tower. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.